So meeting's over? Okay, we're back on session. No votes taken, no decisions made. So we're up to the invocation. Followed by the pledge.
This is a May blessing for the month of May. Be present. Let the day flow with grace and peace. Expect joy. Be positive. Serve with compassion. Speak only kindness. Impart only love. Never forget you're not alone. Give thanks for everything. See goodness in others. May you feel God's blessing the month of May and always. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we keep the mayor's comments short. Going to roll right into staff reports for Mr. Pope. And I'm appointing the Planning Commission as a long-term rental committee. You know, left me? Anyway, so they're going to be working on that, and Mr. Pope will be going into it in a few minutes under staff reports. So with that, staff reports are up.
So, kind of before and after the rental cap, there's been community-wide discussions about long-term rentals on Folly Beach, the lack thereof, the loss thereof, and everyone on Folly Beach, we call it long-term rentals, but what everyone's really talking about is affordable or attainable housing, lower cost options for housing, seasonal housing or year-round housing. But everyone has a lot of great ideas. We've had specific programs suggested, we've had specific targeted groups suggested, but there doesn't seem to be really a consensus on exactly who will be serving, what the qualifications for, and what form that assistance will take. So before we get too far down any specific path, we need to take a step back and come to a common definition of long-term. I mean, technically, long-term rental is a rental for more than 30 days, but we all know that's not what we're talking about. So on Folly Beach, when we talk about long-term rental, what does that mean? And so we've asked the Planning Commission, I spoke with Ms. Stubblefield, the chair, and she gracefully accepted the assignment to work over the next few months to hold public hearings, public meetings, hear feedback from everyone, kind of gather all the ideas, gather all the viewpoints, and work towards a common definition so that we can go forward. And our packets are online, and this two-page memo is there. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically we're going to ask the Planning Commission to solve who's the target audience. Is it anyone who wants to live on Folly Beach? Is it someone who works at a Folly Beach business? Is it City of Folly Beach public employment? Who are we targeting for our long-term rental programs? What income ranges are covered? Very broadly speaking, affordable or attainable workforce housing ranges from 20% all the way up to 120% of the median income, depending on the type of program. The qualifications are different. So what income ranges are we looking to serve? What cost limits apply? Many programs, for example, I bought my first house through a City of Charleston affordable housing program, and the costs were limited to 30% of my income. So how much of the cost is the city going to subsidize? Is it going to be a flat rate? Is it going to be tailored to the individual? That sort of thing. Where should we be pursuing long-term rentals? Folly Beach, the island of, is very expensive. West Ashley, which is not Folly Beach, but is a 20-minute drive from here, is cheaper. Could the city get more bang for its buck by creating a 10-minute drive radius, a 15-minute drive radius? Does affordable housing for Folly Beach workers have to be on the island of Folly Beach? I don't know. And then what should be the method? Are we going to buy land, build houses, and sell them to people with mortgages? Are we going to make payments to landlords so they can lower their rents to market rate? Are we going to make payments to renters so they can choose to live wherever they are? What type of program should we prefer or prioritize? It could be a mix of all those, but we need some sort of agreement on what exactly it is we're looking for. Do we need to partner with another government agency to buy houses, to rent them out to our employees? We don't know. So these are kind of the big questions that we're gonna ask the planning commission to meet about at the city council. You know, a definition, a long-term rental on Folly Beach is marketed to person Y who makes person X and is in the form of program Z. And then once we get that, the city can move forward with reviewing the many successful examples of long-term or affordable housing throughout the country, picking the ones that we think most work best for us and funding it and implementing it. So it's gonna be a long process. It's not gonna take, I mean, we're already a year out from the moratorium and the cap, but this is a start, and we can't move forward until we know what we're doing, and that's what the planning commission is gonna do for us.
Okay. Mr. Still.
All right, so, earlier this month, I was reached out to by the Public Employee Benefit Authority. They have allowed participating municipalities for a one-time chance to essentially reclassify yourselves as ineligible employees for insurance benefits. So we kind of saw this as a tool for municipalities if they needed help kind of balancing their budgets. So this will be a part of y'all's budgeting process. If you wanted to move forward with this, this will be passed by resolution potentially in June. I did want y'all to take note of a couple of the notes that they gave, that it will be effective immediately upon passage of the resolution. And since this is a voluntary thing, you would not be eligible for COBRA benefits if you went down this path. So, any questions?
So basically you're saying if you go down this path, you're on your own,
Exactly.
or you don't have to go down the path at all?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Stevens till we get to the ordinances? Do we need to have her go back over any? Yes? You all right? You okay?
I was gonna say one thing, I did miss.
No, you can't say that. You have to stand up here.
Chris, your question about the earliest, I said June, I think I was thinking it's April now. If it's May, earliest is gonna be July, at very earliest.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that again shortly. So we're on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Have a second? Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Pope.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Zell. Yes. Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
passes.
So the approval of the minutes from the last meeting on the 9th. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Mr. Pope.
Mr. Brazil,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms.
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
passes.
So now we're going to be educated a little bit. Ms. Twilly, you're up. Well,
Wes is gonna,
he's a little bit over the screen. Yeah, I left it sitting on my desk.
I'm gonna check to see if this clicker works.
is it?
Oh my goodness, yes. Okay,
Alright.
great. Awesome. Good evening, everybody. I'm Cheyenne Twilley. I recently graduated from the College of Charleston with a Master of Science in Environmental and Sustainability Studies and a Master of Public Administration. My research was titled Evaluating the Impacts of Boundary Spanning at the Coastal Science and Policy Interface here in Folly Beach, South Carolina. So what exactly does that mean? Just waiting for my clicker to work. So boundary spanning is work to enable the exchange between knowledge holders and decision makers, and boundary spanners are individuals or organizations that specifically and actively facilitate this process. So you could take out boundary spanners and interchange that with facilitator, communicator, intermediary, what have you. It all technically means the same thing. So still, what does that mean? So we have some visuals here, and if you're gonna look at the picture of the guy plugging everything together, let's say the fella on the left is a policymaker and the fella all the way on the right is a scientist. Sometimes they speak, naturally they have communication barriers. Sometimes they speak different languages. So the guy in the middle is plugging everything in for them. He's improving their coordination. He's facilitating that communication. He's their translator. So sometimes that's really important. Meeting today's coastal challenges requires individuals who can operate at the boundary between science and policy. Well, why is that? Well, look at this picture here and here. Once the clicker catches up. And here, and here. So these are incredibly complex coastal challenges. And the complexity of these problems requires working across disciplines, integrating different types of knowledge, and the intentional connecting of science to information needs. And by bringing together scientists and the policymakers and the stakeholders and the community members to work toward these common goals, like we said, these can't be solved with one equation, right? They're all different disciplines. These boundary spanners promote a shared understanding of the challenges facing coastal areas, which enables that development of the comprehensive and effective conservation strategies, hopefully increasing the likelihood of successful implementation. So boundary spanning can strengthen coastal policy. It can improve collaboration. It can improve understanding of local conditions, right? Folly is a very unique animal, and so that's what I mean by understanding local conditions. It can increase stakeholder buy-in and integration with other policies in general, and it can promote better allocation of resources. So I just want to pause and I want to say that Folly Beach is a resilient leader. The City of Folly Beach is proactive in long-term coastal preservation planning. And since hiring your coastal consultant, the city has adopted long-term coastal plans that establish goals and objectives to manage the effects of climate change, sea level rise, and overall coastal resiliency. So the objectives of my research was to assess the impacts of boundary spanners in 4 Folly Beach coastal management plans, that being the local comprehensive beach management plan, the dune management plan, the marsh management plan, and the sea level rise adaptation report, which is what we're calling Folly 2050. We wanted to know how stakeholders view the decision-making process, especially regarding the capacity to address various coastal issues faced by the City of Folly Beach, and how policy actors and stakeholders perceive boundary spanning in general. Now, to acquire the stakeholder list, I acquired a comprehensive key stakeholders list from Dr. Elko. In total, I ended up conducting 20 stakeholder interviews. My expected outcomes were the more boundary spanning we had, the more informed coastal policies, because increased communication and increased understanding. So upon introducing and explaining the concept of boundary spanning, all participants grasped its purpose and its significance, and 95% of participants agreed or concurred that boundary spanning plays a critical role in the success of Folly Beach coastal management. One participant, representing 5% of the sample, expressed a dissenting view. So based on these designated set of interview questions that I asked the stakeholders, they were prompted to articulate any challenges encountered in communication or collaboration associated with Folly Beach coastal management. 2 predominant issues emerged out of that. Number 1 being confusion. Many of these stakeholders highlighted a lack of foundational understanding from the start, with many residents feeling uninformed due to the communication channels not quite distilling the information enough. So not boiling it down to enough. And the remedy was that stakeholders advocated for explanations at a level accessible to all. The other predominant issue that emerged was disengagement. First, stakeholders attributed low or non-existent public engagement to a lack of understanding, right? So what they don't know, they don't feel comfortable enough to engage with or participate on. Now, while most stakeholders acknowledged the city's efforts to provide public information, some highlighted challenges in comprehending the circulated or information available. The second reason for disengagement was that Folly Beach constitutes a small, primarily non-resident community, right? So these folks aren't going to be able to engage as much. 2 additional challenges that arose in collaboration in Folly Beach coastal management was cost and competing interests, of course, just like any other municipality. And so suggestions, the stakeholders suggested enhancing communication efforts. So perhaps suggesting expertise in a coastal communications expert for education and outreach, adding a coastal management section to the city website with a tab dedicated to each plan in layman's terms was another suggestion. And then perhaps monthly social media awareness campaigns such as living shorelines, erosion awareness, etc. And then lastly, this struck home, and a lot of people said that, I found it relevant to put up here, but finding what's near and dear to each person to establish a connection, that's really important. Everybody wants to feel heard, everybody wants to feel valued, and I think that the more they feel valued, the more they're willing to participate. So the key themes that really emerged, the takeaway, was that the city of Folly Beach is definitely a resilient coastal leader. Stakeholders struggle to grasp both the scientific concepts, but also the coastal policies. The confusion definitely led to a lack of participation, and that was a common theme. Stakeholders, like I said, they want to feel confident when they're offering input. They don't want to get up here and, sound silly if they don't feel equipped or well prepared to offer input. And the city makes efforts to disseminate information, and that was clear. It was also clear that the city is readily available to answer questions anytime. However, the stakeholders need clear and distilled information. So cue the social sciences. And in conclusion, the city of Folly Beach and their contracted expertise excel tremendously with including a wide range of stakeholders to build consensus and implement management measures. Though it has become evident through my research that placing a greater emphasis on boundary spanning is crucial for establishing more effective communication channels among the stakeholders, the scientists, and the decision makers. Now, some recommendations for the future would be to incorporate this idea of deliberative boundary spanning, right? Give the people what they want in Folly Beach coastal management. So assessing how stakeholders respond after they explicitly requested the integration of the social sciences into the decision-making process. That is all I have for you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So now, congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So now we know what to call Dr. Elko a boundary spanner.
That's right.
We wondered for years what we were paying him for, but now we know. Okay, Mr. Steele. Need you to just give us your name and address and go for it.
David Steele, 212 West Indian, and asking for permission to tie into the public sewer system.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Just so everybody will understand, Mr. Sullivan,
Yes, sir.
the sewer line is right in front of, on the side, and around the backside too. I mean, he's like surrounded by sewer lines, yeah. Right. So this is not expansion, this is just tapping into sewer line that's already there.
Costs are incurred by Mr. Steele.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Unless you all want to chip in.
You can pass the hat and see what you can collect here.
I don't think I'm gonna get much out of it.
Any other questions? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Dr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Gazelle?
Yeah.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
And now you're gonna get those really nice notices every month. Instead of once a quarter.
It's better than the septic system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Lung Force folks, I didn't have a name.
Sorry, you weren't sure who was gonna be able to come tonight. So my name is Alexis, and I am the development manager for the American Lung Association in South Carolina. And I am here tonight to ask for the council's approval for us to host our annual Lung Force Run Walk on Folly Beach again this year. And our proposed date is November 9th, Saturday, November 9th. The run walk begins at 9 a.m. and we're usually wrapping up about 11 a.m. And we begin and end at the Dean's house. So we start at the Dean's house, will run or walk halfway of that 5K on the beach down towards Tides, then turn around and come back. This event is a fundraiser for the American Lung Association, so funds raised goes toward lung cancer research, education, and advocacy. We have about 365 people who participated in it last year. And then it's also an opportunity for people in South Carolina or even beyond that to run or walk for someone in their life that they have lost from lung cancer or lung disease, or we have survivors of lung cancer and lung disease who also walk, or just because people are passionate about the cause. So we already have approval from Folly Beach County Park to use the county park on that day and to use the Dean's House.
Motion to approve. Second. Have you looked to see what the tide's gonna be that day? I was trying to find it, but
Yes.
mine doesn't go that far.
Yes, sir. That was the first thing we looked at. That's why we chose the November 9th date. It was good for the tide, so we know we have plenty of beach for
Okay.
everyone to run and walk on.
It's just easier to run on the packed sand than it is there.
Yes.
That was my
Yes.
first question. Second was, you go both ways on the beach, right?
We do.
You're not gonna go West Ashley Avenue.
No, and it's on the beach, so it doesn't impede any traffic, so we just run down the beach.
So y'all talked to the committee, this committee?
Yes, sir.
You're good?
Yeah, in fact, they're awesome to work with, and I wish more runs would choose the beach because it's better than the roadway. So, no, they're good to work with.
Any other questions? Mr. Pope?
Do we get a motion in a second?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
DJ made the motion and
Thanks. Sorry. Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Brooms?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Gazelle?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
yes.
Pass.
See you tonight.
Yeah, hope to see you guys soon.
Ms. Hensley, you're up next.
I am here on behalf of the owner of 713 East Arctic Avenue to request a variance for non-conforming driveway. It's a front beach house that cannot have a driveway from the back. It is a recently completed 6-bedroom house. It's required to have 6 parking spaces. They can park 3 under, and 3 spaces are needed on the property to meet the ordinance. The situation with the driveways is there are 2 parking bays underneath the house that are separated by about 10 feet by a central stairway to enter the house. And so the other issue is the house is at the 10-foot setback at the build-to line. So there's not enough space to back the car fully out before cutting your wheels. And you know how when you park in the parking garage, and if you don't back all the way fully out before you start cutting your wheels, you hit the column. So that would happen with the splayed driveway with a 20-foot separation, and it would also happen with a singular 15-foot driveway. So we just need to squish them together a little bit and move the 20-foot section to the end of the property, so there's still available public parking in the right-of-way. I think it still meets the intent of the ordinance by providing public parking access in the right-of-way.
Have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions?
Is the spot in between the driveways suitable for golf cart parking only, or is that just
Yeah.
wasted space?
Yeah, it would be big enough for a golf cart.
Can we designate that for golf cart parking only? That's the only question I had.
I don't know, we'd have to look at it, but it's gonna be designated, it's gonna be pretty much designated by the spot.
It's differentiated because the driveway aprons will be concrete pavers, and the section in the middle won't, so it won't, I don't think it's going to look like part of the driveway, and it's certainly not big enough to be a parking space for a car.
Right. If we could squeeze a golf cart in there, then at least it preserves some availability.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm not sure how that would be done without signage and, it's a rental house, I think people run over it, I'm not sure, but,
Otherwise, it's just
yeah.
wasted space.
Right.
You're not taking just 15 and 15, but you're taking 15, 15, and 10.
yeah. You just
Sure,
don't
I'm
see
sure Eric could figure it out with a sign or something
Yeah.
afterwards.
That's right. And let Eric,
It will be wasted.
the parking guys check it out.
motorcycle parking.
Any other questions? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Dr. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Bezell,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes.
passes.
AJ. I don't want to butcher your last name.
All right, I'll do it for you. Good evening, my name is AJ Filemeyer. I'm here.
I thought, but I wasn't positive.
Wait, what were you gonna say?
Filemeyer. Close.
Filemeyer. Yeah, kinda close. Well, I'm here tonight representing Carolina Salt Surf Lessons, and I'm requesting that you allow us to convert our non-franchise surf lessons to franchise status. That would allow us to go from a maximum number of 10 to up to 40 students. The reason for my request this evening is over the past few years, I've received inconsistent information from the city in regards to what the timeline will be for the franchise application. If you look at the emails that I provided in the packet, you'll see that all of my efforts were met with inconsistent information. No fault of anyone's, it's just that nobody was in charge of it. There wasn't really a process in place. The timeline kept changing, and I was chasing down who was responsible for it. Last year, when the timeline changed from spring to TBD, we came before council and requested to up our number of students above the 10 level. We were denied that request. After denial, we asked, when is the franchise able to be bid on? You said that it is up in the air, but we will let you know. Well, unfortunately, we were never told when it was. I requested many times for this information, never received it. The only thing I ever saw, which unfortunately was after the deadline, was a Facebook post on December 19th stating that the franchise application was up for bid and it was due on January 2nd. Now, with all the correspondence I had with the city, I never once received any information that it would be presented over Christmas break. And the reason that I'm here asking for this is, main reason, like, this is our livelihood. This is how we put food on the table. And we also work with some pretty cool local organizations like Camp Happy Days, MUSC, and local universities, and they have groups that are larger than 10. And we're not able to meet the demand of the community for the surf lessons. And I think the biggest thing is, in closing, if you can just look at all the effort that I put forth in trying to just find the information when I can throw my hat in and apply. I was never given the information, and I would love to be able to convert my non-franchise to a franchise. Now, just in case you're wondering, we do not do 40 people. Maybe every now and then, somebody will reach out and say, hey, we got a large crew, we want to do something. But it's not a daily occurrence. This is a rare situation. But we are out there doing surf lessons, brings value to the beach. People come out and do a healthy activity, and then they come and frequent the local establishments. So please just take into consideration the persistent effort I've given to find the information so that I could actually apply. Thank you.
We have a motion to approve.
I make a motion to allow 20 people and the city gets 2% of sales just as a discussion point.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Reason why is, I mean, he showed due diligence, and we cannot make it a franchise. We can't, we'd have to open up the whole bidding process. But we were a little slack, with our timeline. We didn't know, we kept postponing, and we changed it as far as the franchises. And I said, then I think we need to be a little more accountable and hold it, say in September, and take them for a while, and just be a little more open about the process, because it's an open bid. It didn't happen, and things came up, we were in the middle of everything else. So I think we can meet them a little bit without making them a franchise or going all the way,
give them to allow for 20 students and just take 2% of his sales is half of what a camp is, and it gives them a little more than they're allowed to do now.
Well, I would just argue on the other side that he got the same amount of announcements that everybody else got. I mean, we didn't send any letters to anybody that wasn't, you know, previous surf franchises. We didn't send letters to anybody that aren't previous.
You're right. We also
Share
just
an
heard,
umbrella franchise.
we also just heard a
so-
presentation where, as you know, boundary spanners, we need to be a little more open with information and
We
land
were open,
disturbance.
we were open, and y'all just kept changing it on me. But you know, it's
I-
like I understand what your question is, but to stand up there and blame the city for not getting information, you got the same information. All the other folks came in here to bid on those franchises, and all the other folks came in here to try to bid on camps and surf lessons. So don't come and stand up there in front of me and say, well, I didn't get a personal invitation because nobody else did.
I don't,
Sorry, go ahead.
no.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's just that through the years, dating back to 2021, we've been asking, and we never got the information. And then they say it's gonna happen in September and October. Well, then it happens in the end of December, and that's, honestly, if you have a list of who actually applied, it's just the people that had franchises, correct?
No,
No.
no.
Pretty sure it was.
I don't have a problem striking a middle ground, so I would advocate for something in the middle, and that's my
If
stance.
if these events happen few and far between, could you not just apply for a special event status and do it for, like, the MUSC surfing event? And on one day, you go before the special events committee and work it out like that?
So I'm not sure how that works, but is that a long process? If they could call and say, hey, we got a group of oncology that we want to go and have a retreat, and we're thinking about doing it next Friday. Can you all fit a
No,
group of 25 people?
it couldn't be that much. You'd have
Well,
to
so
plan a
that's
little
the
farther ahead.
situation that I run into with that. And being limited to just 10, I mean, there's camps out there, these franchises have 40 kids, and there's certain, like, one party has 2 franchises.
I understand, but a special event, you would be allowed to go over 10. But
Yes,
you'd have to do your planning.
Well,
It's
there's no
just-
spontaneity in that, that's his
There-
point.
that-
They call up and,
Yeah,
So- I mean, so-
yes or no.
We deal with a lot of last minute things, we don't really have the ability to get started.
Sorry.
So do you believe 20 is reasonable, 10 to 20, not to 40 or become a franchise? Is that a reasonable option?
It is reasonable, there's
Okay.
been situations, like I said, where like
Mhm.
they would have 30 people.
And then if that was the case, what Mr. Folly is saying, there might be that option for events?
Yeah, that could be potentially a situation. Again, I don't know anything about that process.
But let's go back, let's step back, since he wants to step back to 21, let's step back a little bit further. Surf lessons was limited to 5. He came in, he got 10. That got moved up from 5 to 10. Now, you know, so, again, you've been through the process of asking, and you've been through the city process. I just don't feel like you're coming in here and saying you didn't get an invitation works for me, but that's me.
We have a vacancy from the paddle surf, right?
That's paddleboard, sir.
But, okay, so that's not like,
You'd have to open it up for bids again, back to Mr.
that's what my point is.
Well, let's assume that we do have to open it up for bids again for franchises, but a reasonable approach is an interim to allow him to continue to do his business and work with the groups he's trying to work with. I've had an opportunity to review your stuff. You do things with Wounded Warriors, you're doing things with different groups that is an increase to 20, not at least an interim, like Mr. Rich pointed out, is a step toward a franchise application when we open that up for everybody. You're not gonna jump ahead of the line for a franchise. You know, that's not gonna happen. But if there's some middle ground, Dr. Houghton and DJ, I think, are trying to throw a little bit of a life ring here. It is a livelihood, it is a need, it does bring business to the city. It is a revenue generator for the city as well. Is that something you can work with?
I think, I think so, for sure. It's just the franchise is a 5-year contract. And-
Well, I understand,
Yeah.
I get that, but that's off the table for this discussion for you tonight. It's not an option.
Understood.
So let's look at, is there an interim option that's a win-win for both? That's where we're trying to get to.
Gotcha.
Let's find something that we have winners on both ends of the table.
I hear you. Yeah,
And-
no, I mean, if that is the solution that is presented, then that is something that I can work with. And then if you could point me in who I would talk to about a special event and what that process looks like, that would be very grateful.
I still think the special event is the way. I think allowing the compromise cheapens the franchises. And those people pay a lot of money, and we have it limited. And I don't think we should diminish the value of the franchises that applied on time and got it.
I don't
Any other
think-
questions? Mr. Pope?
What is the motion that we're?
The motion is
Move
for
to
up to
20.
20 students, so the city gets 2% of sales. Because that's big, that's half the franchise.
Gotcha.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
No.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Brazell?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
No.
Passes.
So you got, who's gonna work with about a payment? Lee's not here.
Who would have to work with Stacy?
Okay.
That'll be based on whatever you reported on your business license.
Yeah, and that'll be based on whatever you report on your income tax statement, but work, yeah, Stacy with business license. Okay. That's where you need to go.
Thank you.
And she can explain to you about the special events thing too. You can ask her.
Stacy would be the contact?
She can get you to the right spot.
All right, thank you.
Citizen comments. Any comments? Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am J.D. McAllister. I live at 1715 East Ashland. I'm here to oppose granting a building permit, or permits, as the resolution says, for Mr. Raw's super beachfront lot out at the end of East Ashland. My opposition is based on the contract the city made with the Army Corps of Engineers on September 14th, 1992. The city got federal taxpayer funds for renourishment. In return, the city agreed to protect all sand dunes and sea oats on the island and to assure, quote, continued conditions of public ownership and public use of the shore, unquote. The word shore means the beach between high tide and low tide. So the city has an obligation to protect the upper beach, the sea oats and the sand dunes, and the intertidal beach. Later in 1992, the city participated in a public meeting when the Army Corps explained its contract meant nothing can be built on what we now call super beachfront lots. Some lot owners quit paying their property taxes, actually believing the city would honor its contract. When the city began issuing permits for the houses out on the beach, now numbering 15 and occupying over 1 acre of public beach, I came to council meetings to oppose the permits. Mayor Linville called the contract and beach ordinances Mickey Mouse documents, not worth the paper written on. Some council members and the city attorney laughingly agreed. Tonight may be the first time a building permit is to be actually voted on by mayor and council. You can't change what previous administrations did or did not do. But you can now, tonight, exercise your legal and moral obligations to protect the public beach for the public. please vote no on the raw resolution. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. So,
Yes, public comment.
Yeah.
Public comment.
sorry.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kelly Thorwaldson. I'm the Senior Manager of Conservation Programs from the South Carolina Aquarium. Thank you for allowing public comment. I'm commenting on the Code of Ordinance, the amendment to the Code of Ordinances for Chapter 112 on single-use plastic. Folly Beach has long been working on sustainability measures to protect this beautiful and sensitive ecological barrier island. The South Carolina Aquarium has partnered with you on sea turtle conservation, on litter cleanups, and reducing the amount of plastic pollution on the island for many years, and we are grateful for our relationship with you and for your work in this regard. It was when the aquarium began to see an increase of sea turtles coming into our hospital with plastics in their GI tracts that we began working in earnest beyond our walls to mitigate plastic pollution. We do this throughout the state, not just on the coast, not just here in Charleston. We want to keep litter from entering rivers and streams in the Midlands and in the upstate that will ultimately help keep it from our marshes and our creeks and the ocean. However, we have been working fervently on Folly Beach with Toby Turtle, with the Fab Litter Committee to do cleanups. We see many of you out there helping us and supporting us, and we're certainly grateful for your efforts on those. Banned plastic debris from the original ordinance even, they're still showing up in large numbers on the island, and thick plastic bags have certainly become part of that, and this is part of the amendment that we're talking about. Plastic cutlery and other plastic dinnerware are regular offenders in litter cleanups as well. We are with greater enforcement of the single-use plastic bans from neighboring municipalities, and with Folly Beach joining those municipalities to close the loophole that allows the thick plastic bags to be used, and providing plastic utensils upon request only, we are confident that we'll see a decline in those items. I do have litter data analyzed from Folly Beach, 7 years of it, so we're able to really see trends in what's happening with plastic, single-use plastic, banned items, et cetera, and then we can track the successes of these ordinances. This is important because plastic is not only harming wildlife, and certainly sea turtles that we're seeing in our hospital, but there's a greater understanding of how it's negatively impacting human health. And we have to do everything we can to reduce our use of these single-use items that we can get a handle on. And these are things that we are certainly willing to help you all with as we move forward with our colleagues from Coastal Conservation League and Surfrider, and certainly your residents to make this successful. Thank you.
Any other comments on this?
Can everyone hear me okay? Thank you. My name is Brooke Blosser. I am the Land, Water, and Wildlife Project Manager with the Coastal Conservation League. And in this role, I primarily focus on keeping our coastal waters clean and safe for our wildlife and for our South Carolina coastal citizens. Today is actually a really special day for me. 6 years ago today, I moved to Charleston from Raleigh, North Carolina. And in fact, the first beach that I visited when I moved here was Folly Beach. And Folly has consistently been my home base beach, if you will, not only because of the bright, smiling people, but also because of the wonderful and incredible local businesses that y'all have here in Folly. They're just really, really special, and I can point to many, many happy memories at these businesses. I'm here today to talk about the plastics ordinance as well, and how the plastics ordinance is not only going to be beneficial to keeping our water clean and safe for our wildlife, but also is going to raise up those businesses and continue to applaud them for doing the right things. Businesses on Folly Beach, as far as I've seen since I've been here in the last 5 years, 6 years or so, have largely been already using the paper bags that are much safer as an alternative to wildlife. And so the ordinance that is being passed today has little to no implications for the businesses, is it's an ordinance that is to regionally close a loophole to support the efforts of the Charleston County and Charleston region as a whole. I applaud the city of Folly Beach and the businesses for being leaders in the sustainability space and already having done the things to prioritize our coastal environment. So I thank you so much, and I thank Aaron Pope especially for working with me on this ordinance. And I thank you guys for bringing this to the council and prioritizing not only the businesses that make Folly Beach so great and so incredible, but also prioritizing your coastal citizens and its wildlife. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Steve Roll. I'm at 1735 East Ashley Avenue. My remarks will be brief. I didn't realize that I was on the agenda tonight to speak. Otherwise, I would have been more prepared to sign up for this. My wife and I have been on Folly Beach for over 40 years. We've been stewards of the beach. We've taken care of the beach. We put sand fencing up. We've moved the snow fences when the turtles had to be accommodated. So we've been here for a long time. We have a great investment in Folly Beach. One of the things you probably don't realize is we're not part of the beach renourishment project. We're not part of the federal project. We have to pay for every renourishment we have, and that's been substantial. Starting in the first renourishment we had was in 2005. The last renourishment was 2018. But we've been out here for this length of time. We've paid property taxes. We abide by the rules. If you read that resolution for the property, it says that a building permit will be issued if we comply with all the ordinances. We're not asking for anything special. We've been able to get seawall permits, and I think we've run our building permits in front of the building supervisor, and they're reasonable. Shouldn't be any problems. We're not trying to do anything different than anybody else, and we're just trying to be good stewards of Folly Beach. One of the things is we're not a super beachfront house, never have been. All the houses past Summer Place may be, but not our property. We are not a super beachfront house. If you read the definition of a super beachfront house in this Braden's Folly Act by the Supreme Court this last fall, we're just not that. We have a driveway access to the beach. So I think you're confusing this with somebody else, and your information is completely untrue. So
Hey, Dr. Raw, y'all
I'm finished.
keep it that. Thank you. Thank you for the point that you're not a part of the
We do pay
renourishment
taxes
process.
too. And this guy was trying to.
Any, all right, anybody else?
Mayor and council, thank you guys very much for having us tonight. My name is Zach Watkin. I'm the chair for the Charleston Surfrider chapter. I'm here to speak on the ordinance 015-24 about the single plastic use bag ordinance. First of all, I'd like to say thank you guys. We've been working with you guys since way before I've been on the board for Surfrider, whether it be with Wahini Surf Festival or the Hold On to Your Butts campaign. Folly has definitely been one of the places that Surfrider in Charleston has called home. So I'd like to thank you guys for that, for helping us build that sense of community, and then that you guys have already been such an impactful leader in the community down here for us. But I just wanted to come up here and just thank you guys and urge you guys to vote in updating the ordinance for the single-use plastic bag. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? So we're gonna move right along into new business, since we have no old business tonight, no more boards and commission reports. And the first thing on new business, I'm not gonna read all these proclamations, but the first one is a proclamation designating the second week of May as Lung Cancer Action Week. We've seen some action today talking about Lung Force Run. It is very dear to a lot of folks' heart here at the beach. So early detection and learn about lung cancer during the rest of this week. And early detection is a key, very, 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 very important key. The second proclamation is our annual proclamation for National Safe Boating Week, and that runs, the week is May 18th through the 24th. Hopefully a safe boating annually, yearly, every day, 365 days a year if you're on the water. Wear a life jacket, that's an important thing. You never know when you're gonna leave the boat. Trust me, you never know when you're gonna leave the boat. And your dog might be looking at you saying, where did you go? And why did you leave me? So, 76% of fatal boating accidents, victims drown. Most of those drowning victims, life jacket usage was 84.5% of them were not wearing a life jacket. I don't know if you remember, there was a dredging company that had a young man fall off a boat unexpectedly. These guys were on boats all the time. The boat run over him. It was up a part of the Cooper River. He got trapped under the boat, but they finally got him out because he had a life jacket on. He got popped up. That young man spent several weeks in the hospital, some in intensive care, but he is back and active at home in Florida, and was talking about going back to work the last I heard. So that life jacket that he had to wear because he was working saved his life, I'm sure. So with that, we'll move on to what a lot of folks have been waiting on, boards and commissions appointment. The first one is ATAX. You want to talk about it? You want me to talk about it?
So, we have 5 spots. Each one of these is tied to a specific qualification in the ordinance. And so what we'll do is we're gonna go through all of the boards here, and we'll do our usual poll for everyone to name their nominees, and then at the end, we're gonna make a motion to accept the nominees as agreed upon. So first up is for the ATAX board. If I call your name, if you don't mind, just for the general public, you'll pick 1, for lodging, you'll pick 2, and for hospitality, you'll pick 1. Does that make sense for everyone? All right, so for the general public, Mr. Rich,
Cliff Harvey,
and for lodging,
Kathy Miller, Darlene Rawls,
and for hospitality,
Melissa Carr.
all right, thank you. Mr. Brazil?
Mr. Harvey, Ms. Miller, Darlene Ross. Can I put Fanjoy over at lodging at all? Is that a possibility?
Yes, did we rate him, does he meet the qualification for lodging?
He applied for general public.
So it's,
I think once we get done,
we can
yeah,
check
if
and
he
see.
can reapply for another one.
Yeah, I just started to say, if he meets the qualification for lodging, we're gonna have to go back out and advertise for these, just going to put it in. What's that?
Dr. Houghton?
Cliff Harvey, Kathy Miller, Darlene Rawls, Melissa Carr, and I do support if he's qualified.
All right, Mayor Goodwin?
Cliff Harvey, Miller, Rawls, Carr.
Mr. Farland?
Harvey, Miller, Rawls, Carr.
Mr. Fink?
Harvey, Miller, Rawls, Carr, and Fanjoy if qualified for lodging.
All right, Mr. Grooms?
Harvey, Miller, Rawls, Carr.
All right, thank you, guys. We'll just move through all the boards and then we'll make a final motion at the end. So for the BZA, we have two spots open and 5 applicants. And this is for just the general public. There's no special qualification for this board. So, Mr. Farley,
Brown, Rosen.
Mr. Grooms,
Brown, Rosen.
Dr. Houghton,
Emily Brown, John Rosen.
Mr. Brazil,
Emily Brown, Earl Cato.
Mr. Rich,
Brown, Rosen.
Mayor Goodwin.
Brown and Rosen.
All right.
Hello. Do I get the point?
Oh, yes, sorry. Mr. Fink.
Emily Brown and Laura Engelmeyer.
All right, thank you. And for the Community Promotions Committee. We have one nonprofit spot and one applicant, and then 2 applicants for the one general public spot. So Dr. Houghton,
Mary Cato and Bill, how do I say the last name?
Simple.
Simple.
Okay.
Mr. Brazell,
Mary Cato and Bill Sipple.
Mr. Brooms.
Geringer, Sipple.
I'm sorry. What's
Geringer.
Mr. Farley,
Geringer, Sipple.
Mr. Fink,
Mary Cato, Bill Sipple.
Mayor.
Hello.
Mary Cato and Bill.
And that is everybody, right?
You don't want to vote?
What, that, sorry, I'm losing track.
It's okay. Geringer, Sipple.
All right, thank you. All right. Sorry, guys. For the Construction Board of Appeals, just wanna make sure I put it on. All right, it's two applicants for 2 spots.
How about if I make a motion, we accept the 2 applicants unanimously?
Yeah, we're good with that.
Let's give it a hand.
Design Review Board, we have 2 spots that weren't applied for, and we have 1 general public spot and 3 applicants. So, Mr. Rich,
Giselle.
Mr. Brazell,
Oh, I'm sorry, Yeager.
Dr. Houghton,
Kim Yeager.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yeager.
Mr. Farley,
Gazelle.
Mr. Fink,
Give me Yeager.
Mr. Brooms.
Gazelle.
Once again, with those 2 open spots, we're gonna re-advertise. Whoever doesn't win can move it if applicable. And we'll look at, because those are recommended spots for that board, right?
Right. If I can make a comment, having been the chair of that board for years and everything else, it's only a 5-member board, and to have 2 vacancies is pretty darn tough to do business
Yeah.
because it takes 3 for a quorum. And if anyone can't make it, and this board meets pretty regularly every month, and if we're delayed in being able to have somebody put up their sign or paint their building or whatever it is we do, that comes before the board, it's pretty tough. So is there any consideration at all that any of the other 2 applicants can fill one of those in the interim, or does that have to be re-advertised
No,
out?
re-advertised.
Okay, well, I hope we get to that next month for sure then.
Could you entertain a motion to make those 2 categories a little bit more inclusive and less narrow in scope?
It's preferred, so it's already open.
Okay.
So when we re-advertise it, we'll drop the qualifications. Because in this particular case, those aren't requirements, they're preferences.
Right.
But I will say, you do need at least one, I would say, having seen that board and been in that board in action, you do need at least one licensed contractor, because there's questions that's gonna come up that licensed contractor should give an answer. Either that or we're gonna make Eric attend every board meeting.
All right, next up, we have Parks and Recreation. We have 2 spots open and 3 applicants. Mr. Brooms,
McDermott and Gildea.
Mr. Fink,
McDermott and Cato?
Mr. Farley,
McDermott and Gildea.
Dr. Houghton,
Patty McDermott, Sean Gildea.
Mr. Brazell,
McDermott, Gildea.
Mr. Rich,
McDermott, Gildea.
Mayor Goodwin.
McDermott, Cato.
All right, next we have the TVPC. We have 2 spots and 3 applicants. And I'm just gonna go down the row again to make it easier. Mr. Rich,
DePascal and Hill.
Mr. Brazell,
DePascal and Cato.
Dr. Houghton,
Sorry, Rick DePasco and Ron Hill.
Mr. Farley,
Di Pasquale and Hill.
Mr. Brooms,
Di Pasquale and Hill.
Mr. Fink.
Just Mr. Sisqually and Cato.
All right. And the last. Let me drop that, didn't I? Mayor Goodwin.
Rick and Ron.
All right.
That makes it easy for you.
All right, and the last we have the UAB. We have 2 openings and 2 applicants.
Again, I make a motion that we accept the 2 applicants.
Second.
So the final motion would be for the ATAX, Mr. Harvey, Kathy Miller, Darlene Rawls, and Melissa Carr. BZA, Emily Brown, and John Rosen. The CPC, Mary Cato, and Tina McGo. I apologize if I mispronounced your last
No, it was
name.
Bill,
I'm sorry.
Billy Sipple.
Billy Sipple.
Thanks, Billy Seipel. I'm sorry, guys. The Construction Board of Appeals, Mr. Campbell, Aaron Temple, Design Review Board, Ezell and Yeager, Parks and Recreation, Patty McDermott, and
So-
No,
It's only
there's only
one for.
Yeager.
Design Review Board.
I'll tell you guys, I'm sorry.
You must have bet 8 o'clock.
I must have.
Just so y'all know, when we say bet, the staff has an inter-staff betting they don't let me in on. But whoever gets closest to the end of the meeting with their bet wins this box of spaghetti that I've yet to see. It gets passed around and new stickers get put on it, and nobody eats the spaghetti. So when I say you must have bet 8 o'clock, he was.
All right, so that was Kim Yeager, and I apologize to everyone for bungling this. So Parks and Rec, I got Patty McDermott and Mr. Gildea. TVPC, DePasquale and Ron Hill. And then the UAB is Matt Napier and Lee Jackson.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to accept the candidates as elected.
So moved.
Any discussion? Without objection, I'll take the unanimous.
Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Fink was worried about being confused.
Making me look good.
Right.
Thank you, Aaron, appreciate that.
Okay.
I got plenty
So-
of put it up. Thanks, Billy.
I was thinking this thing was getting ready to look like a jack in the box here. Moving on to ordinance 007, ordinance amended the standards of chapter 166, tree protection of the Folly Beach zoning and development. Ordinance by amending 16601-03 to allow removal of protected trees in certain circumstances in residential two-family zoning district. Do I have a motion for approval?
I make a motion, we remand to planning to review the whole tree ordinance.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to send it back to planning for the entire tree ordinance. You have any discussion? All right, Mr. Pope, get ready.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms.
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Dr. Houghton.
Yes.
Mr. Bazell.
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yeah.
And Mandy.
Okay. Ordinance 008, an ordinance adopting the standards of chapter 16101, rules of interpretation of the Folly Beach zoning and development ordinance by amending 16101-02 to add pervious materials to the definitions and to include industrial standard specifics for pervious materials. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
You want to hear it again? So,
Well, I gotta hear it again because you didn't move to take them off the agenda.
well,
You wanna make a motion to postpone?
I think everybody was ready to move.
I'm ready to, I'm ready to put this baby down.
So this has to do with 24, 8, 9, and 10 of 24, and I'll just make my remarks one time, addressing all three of them. But for those that weren't here, this will be new for you, and those that were here, it's a rerun, but if this was Bruce, if someone starts with a permitted 15-foot driveway and the gravel spreads and now it becomes a 20-foot driveway, this would be the loss of public parking. Or if someone covers the permitted driveway and also improves the public right-of-way with the same gravel, now the entire front of the property is gravel, making it impossible to see what is the protected driveway and what is not, and we lose public parking. Or if an ISTR gravels the entire front parking lot, or entire front yard with gravel, making parking for 10-plus vehicles, this rental now becomes a meeting place for large groups, large gatherings, and calls to public safety. And the neighbors suffer with the noise and with the calls to public safety. These things are not what will happen, but these things have already happened even throughout the island, even though we define gravel as impervious. But what happens if we change it to pervious? Do we really want more gravel and less grassy lawns and gardens? Do we want more parking lots? You know, we spent a lot of time talking about ISTRs and making this a community of homes and not a collection of rental properties. So do we really want a community that looks like high-capacity parking for renters? Or do we want to have home sites that have gardens and have lawns? The list also specifies gravel 7, 8, 9, and 57. And 57, but who follows up to make sure it's not covered with another size? Smaller and easier to walk on would probably be preferable, but do we really expect staff to become gravel police and go from site to site and follow year after year to make sure it is only 7, 8, 9, or 57 gravel? Gravel moves. When it migrates on our roads, it becomes a detriment to traffic as people try to avoid it. It becomes an obstacle to pedestrians who also step further into the road to avoid it, and it's a safety hazard to cyclists. Leaving it impervious does not mean that you cannot use gravel. It just means that it's subject to count towards the 35% lot coverage. I believe we should leave it as is, let gravel count towards the 35, and not encourage an architectural landscape that's full of parking lots and gravel. That's all I got.
Anybody else?
I have a question from Stevens.
Good.
I would like some feedback, since you work with the planning group, and how was it unanimous? Is there a debate? I'd just like to know.
From the planning commission?
Yes, please.
8 was 5-1. 5 voted to recommend to council, 1 did not. And 9 was the same thing. 5 voted to recommend and 1 did not.
So can you speak to some of the questions that Mr. Folly has?
I can. So the right-of-way issue, I 100% agree. People do that already with pavers. They do a driveway and then put pavers here, and there's several places that I can think of that the pavers don't look like they're parking spaces because it goes so far back, so deep, and it just looks like the entire driveway has been ground over. That's gonna be a tougher thing to figure out how to put that into words in an ordinance to say you have to have a driveway that we can see, that we know there's a driveway. And so that's unrelated. I think that's something that we're working on, trying to pick out people who are doing this right and kind of say, what is it that they're doing right that makes it obvious that that's a parking space, and not just the entire, somebody's driveway is their front yard. I kind of took minutes here. Move from the 15 to the 20. I would recommend there are ways to put in barriers, and that could be a requirement if you have driveways. If you have gravel driveways, then some sort of barrier on the outsides to keep to prevent the spread or help prevent the spread or moving. The whole front yard, I think people already can park in their whole front yard. They can do it on grass. They can do it today. So I don't think we're inviting people to add more gravel that they weren't already thinking about doing. But, I mean, you're right, it would still, if it is still impervious, then it is still allowed. It would just count towards that 35%. I think that's.
Yeah, I think particularly in regards to a short-term renter, it would behoove somebody to go ahead and gravel everything and pay a landscape company to come out twice a year and spray Roundup, and instead of paying somebody to come out and cut grass and trim and do all that. And I think just from a community perspective, we're much better off, even from a pervious material perspective, we're better off with grass and gardens than even gravel.
Anyone else? Mr. Pope, on number 8.
824 for first reading. Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Patel?
Yeah.
Mr. Farley?
No.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
No.
Mayor Goodwin?
No.
Passes first reading.
Okay, ordinance 009, An ordinance amending the standard of chapter 16102, Folly Beach zoning and development ordinance definitions to remove gravel from the definition of impervious surfaces and amending chapter 166, single and two-family designated design standards by amending 16605-03C4 to remove gravel from the list of impervious materials. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do you have a second? Any discussion?
It's gonna turn out the same way. I asked, just everybody pay attention to what Mr. Farley said, because he's on to something.
Anybody else?
Until it gets brought up in another way, we should protect ourselves.
Anybody else? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Brooms,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
No.
Mr. Farley,
No.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Bazell,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
No.
passes first.
Okay, ordinance 010-24, this is first reading too, I should have said that twice already. An ordinance amending the standards of chapter 166, the Folly Beach zoning and development ordinance, development standards by amending 16606-11, driveways to require all at-grade improvements such as walkways, pool decking on a lot to be pervious, and to add commercial zoning districts to the requirement that driveways must be constructed of pervious materials. Do you have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
The only thing I want to add to this is when you talk about commercial driveways, you have to remember that commercial vehicles use commercial driveways. They're a lot heavier, there's a lot more weight using on them. If you add pervious materials, it's gonna have to be a super high grade pervious material, or pervious material rather. I don't think that should be recommended for commercial driveways. That's the only do that I would bring up to that. Otherwise, it's the same old argument with the same vote number.
As it is now, it's gravel.
I mean.
There you go.
Yeah, I know, but it should be.
More gravel.
Any other comments? Mr. Pope?
Let me, just one other that we talked about, I'm sorry, but the other thing, I think, it doesn't present a level playing field. If somebody covers their lot with their house and it covers 35%, then of course they have to go ahead and have everything else is pervious. But someone whose house only covers 10% of their lot would be held to the same high standard of having to go pervious, even though their house covers less than a third of what the house next door does. It's just not a level playing field. I think that 35% for everybody is a fair, it's the same judgment, it's the same measure for everybody. You get to cover 35%. And if we want to reduce the amount of impervious coverage we have, then we should just reduce the 35 to another number. But everybody should be subject to the same rules regardless. That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Bazell,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
No.
Mr. Fink, Mr. Brooms,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
No.
Mayor Goodwin,
No. Did you get that right? Call him again. Mr. Bazell?
Mr. Bazell,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
No.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Brooms,
Yes.
I'm talking
Mr.
about-
Rich,
No.
Mayor Goodwin.
You got it.
Passes first.
Okay. Ordinance, I'm getting out of the rocks now. Ordinance 11-24, an ordinance amending the standards of chapter 168 of Folly Beach zoning and development ordinance, nonconformities by amending 16804-01B to define single ownership. Have a motion for approval.
Make a motion we approve as amended.
Second.
We need amendments.
Planning Commission made amendments.
Huh?
Planning Commission made amendments.
Well, it's not on here.
On the work session sheet, it said they made 2 amendments. She
Yeah,
said
but
those they-
are they the same ones that's in this ordinance here?
It's in my memo.
It's in your memo, but it's not in this ordinance. Stand up here.
The two
changes.
Add trust and add one or more.
So-
Add trusts
Well,
to the list.
Where are you at exactly, so we get it exactly right?
Single ownership in this ordinance shall be defined to include any ownership where all equitable owners are the same, even if the deeds are held in different names. This shall include, and somewhere in here, individually named owners, beneficiaries, put it right there, trusts,
All right.
members of an LLC. That's the first one.
All right, hang on a second, you get that? Put it there.
I got it.
Okay. What,
Yeah, I'm gonna.
second one?
Second one is on the fourth line down, very end of the line, and if one or, and then on the next line, both. Changing that to one or just really changing the word both to more. In that phrase, if one or both would be if one or more.
You get it? Okay. Now we know what the amendments are, officially. Don't run away.
I will.
Any other comments, questions? All right, first reading, Mr. Pope.
First reading, including the PC amendments. Mr. Rooms.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Dr. Houghton.
Yes.
Mr. Brazil.
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yes.
Passes first.
Ordinance 12-24, ordinance amending the standard of chapter 164, Folly Beach zoning and development ordinance. Use standards by amending table 16401, table of allowed uses to include the Marsh Island Residential Zoning District, and its allowable uses in the table. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mr. Rooms.
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Dr. Houghton.
Yes.
Mr. Brazil.
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yes.
Passes first.
Ordinance 13-24, ordinance amending table 16301 to add the Center Street overlay and Marsh Island residential districts to the table of base and overlay districts. Have a motion for approval. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussions, questions?
Mr. Brazil.
Yes.
Dr. Houghton.
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Mr. Rooms.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yes.
Passes first.
Get too far ahead of you, just punch me. Ordinance 14-24, ordinance amending the standard of chapter 162 of the Folly Beach zoning and development ordinance. Administration to amend 16203-04H to set the deadline to appeal a decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals to 30 days after a decision is mailed. Have a motion to approve?
This is another one that the planning commission had a
Okay.
amendment to add the word within, so in the red in the new part, or within 30 days.
Wait a minute. Oh, excuse me. We just need to change the title, that's all. Yours already in there with the, or 30 days after the decision is
Adding the
BZA.
word within.
Within.
Or
Within?
within 30 days.
No, it says after, it didn't say
I make a motion to approve as amended.
Change,
Or within 30 days after, right? Right?
30 days after.
oh, wait a minute now.
That's not what it says.
Come here a minute. On page 75, what I'm reading, it says, the appeal shall be filed within 30 days after the decision of the planning commission is made, or 30 days after the decision of the BZA is mailed.
So it's referring to the sentences before, where there's a variance, there's the process for both BZA and the planning commission. And so this leaves the planning commission the same as an appeal should be filed within 30 days after the planning decision is made. And we're only changed the BZA deadline to be within 30 days after the decision
of BZA is mailed.
Okay. It just wasn't all.
So you're saying, so they're just saying, this kind of reads like you have, when you get it, when it's mailed, you have 30 days to apply. You guys, you're saying you got to do it within that 30 days, from 0 to 29 days.
Right,
Basically.
well, it was suggested that it's not clear that it would be within that 30 days, the way it's written. That it would just,
Okay,
it's made on 30 days after the decision.
y'all okay with that? Everybody? All right, so this will be as amended by the planning commission.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton.
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms.
Yes.
Mr. Bazell,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yes.
Passes first.
Okay, so ordinance 15-24, ordinance amending Folly Beach Code of Ordinances, chapter 1 to 12, single-use plastic bags, polystyrene coolers, containers, and cups by amending the definition of plastic bags and regulating the automatic distribution of plastic covering. Have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
I do. I have a question and then maybe a motion. Under penalties, Part A, any person may report an alleged violation of the provisions of this chapter to the business license official. I'd like to know why that's in there. I mean, I helped start most of these when we started all these, and we kept stuff like that out because it's almost like you're promoting what could be bad interactions between do-gooders of the public and business owners or business workers who might not have any idea or might not just, it leads to some possible interactions that could be bad. And there's no reason for it. Most of our businesses are already complying with it. I think you'll have just people going around starting trouble over something that, is easily fixable. I really don't care for that.
Well, I know you don't care for it, but what's your motion?
Well, I'm asking why it's in there. Is it just a cut and paste from another ordinance?
It's to clarify who handles the violation, so people don't call the police. It's establishing responsibility for enforcement of the business license official.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the fact that any person may report an alleged violation to the business license official, just in my mind, I see bad things happening from that. I see people overstepping bounds. I see people being protective. I see a lot as far as that any person can rat somebody out, essentially. It's not the business license official, it's that any person can report violations, whereas most people are doing it just fine. And because some people are very proactive in this area, and you give them a little bit of authority and they take the whole yard. I mean, we know that. I don't want to see that this lead to something bad when this is a good ordinance to have. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Is there a way to, I guess,
We could reword it, say the business license official is responsible for enforcement of this chapter.
can I make a motion to change that line to the business license official is responsible for enforcement of this ordinance? That way, it's not, you're not just saying that any person can complain and you're sending a militia of people out there to go and start storming businesses and make sure, it's just bad wording in my mind. I don't want anybody to get hurt.
So I have a motion, got a second?
I'll second that.
Can you read it again before we vote?
Business license official is responsible for the enforcement of this ordinance.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Never, you're
Mr. Bazell,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton.
Yes.
Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Mr. Grooms.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
ready? Yep.
The amendment passes.
Okay. You ready?
Ready? All right. So, first reading as amended. Mr. Grooms.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Dr. Houghton.
Yes.
Mr. Bazell.
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Farley.
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin. Passes.
Okay. Resolution 14-24, resolution by the Folly Beach Council authorizing administration to sign a certificate of authority CSRM design agreement and CSRM lobbying agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for preliminary engineering design of our next 50-year shore protection project. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions? Quick, we'll run out of time.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Brazil?
Yeah.
Ms. Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Sounds like you got 9 o'clock.
I can slow down if I got 9 o'clock. I'm not in, I don't get the spaghetti
get
box.
spaghetti?
No. You would think somebody would bribe me with something every once in a while, right? Resolution 15-24, resolution by Folly Beach City Council accepting a settlement agreement between the city and Stephen E. Rawl and Jill T. Rawl, excuse me, revocable trust, conveying 9,896 square feet of the property at 1735 East Ashley to a conservation entitled entity identified by the city and confirming that the city will issue building permits for future construction on the remaining lot should the plans meet all zoning and land use development regulations. Do I have a motion to approve?
So,
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Just a quick typo. East Ashley on the first line. Do we address?
Just the spelling correction.
Should be Ashley, not Ashley.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Pope?
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Brazil?
yeah.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Resolution 16-24, resolution by Folly Beach City Council accepting a settlement agreement between the city of Folly Beach and W. Carl Reynolds accepting a site plan that shows no encroachment into the dune management and agreeing that said approval shall remain valid in case of property transfer. Do I have a motion for approval?
So,
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is there a time limit on it?
No. Just says property transfer.
The actual settlement agreement spells out 18 months.
Okay.
Add that.
Joe, do you think it's necessary to amend?
Hear you.
Do you think it's necessary to amend the resolution to include the 18 months that's actually in the agreement?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Ray?
Yeah.
Mr. Brazil?
yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Resolution 17-24, resolution awarding 1,500, not 15,000. I was just kidding. $1,500 to the Folly Beach History Society to assist with the promotional material and archival supplies recommended by the community promotions committee. Have a motion for amendment?
So moved.
So motion to approve. Second?
Second.
You got me tongue-tied now. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Mr. Brazil?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes.
Passes.
Start this evening comments with Mr. Rich.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Reminder, the Exchange Club is hosting a veteran supply drive this Saturday with Coastal Community Church in West Ashley. They do a lot of work with veterans in low-cost housing areas, especially like North Charleston, getting them clothing donations, especially men, clothing donations and like toiletries, things like that. So they will have their truck in the Exchange Club Saturday from 11 to 2. And we'll be accepting donations all day to try and fill it so they can help the veterans out right before Memorial Day. That's the goal for that one. So if anybody would be willing to help out with that, we would definitely appreciate
So
it.
what are they looking for mostly? Like
Toiletries and men's clothing
Okay.
are the biggest items. Like the single-use razors are always big, individual bars of soap, tissues, any toiletry items, and men's clothing are the biggest demand items.
And where can we bring it?
And
To
food.
the exchange, bring it to the Exchange Club HUD at 206 West Indian. I think that's right. Saturday, 11 to 3, 11 to 2. And Andy Pratt had a good question earlier. He wanted to write a check. Please make it out to Coastal Community Church. If you do, and they will buy whatever supplies they're lacking at the end of the day. So that is always welcome also.
Just Coastal Community Church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we gave some money to the History Society. I had a chance to look at some of the work they're doing. It's pretty amazing, and it is a daunting task to collate everything they've got. We had a lot of discussion tonight about the plastic bags. There's a beach sweep this Sunday at 4:30. It's not just a great thing for the beach, but it's a great community activity. So I encourage everybody to look into that. So thanks again.
We have some great national themes this month, Older American Month, so shout out to the seniors. It was also Chief Police Week, Teacher Appreciation Week, Pat Week, Memorial Day is coming up. We just celebrated also Mother's Day. Welcome Skip Fink. Go Celtics, go Bruins.
Who you from, New York?
No, the whole 9 yards, Boston.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Thank you for indulging me in my first effort up here. I would also take the opportunity to make my council member's privilege appointment to the Planning Commission. And I would like to appoint Allison McNutt to serve on the Planning Commission as my appointee.
I would oppose that.
Yeah. You're no help, Mr. Mayor.
Just kidding.
McNatt.
Okay.
I've got a couple things. Blood drive bill is coming up June 19th. I believe I've got it in my calendar, so if you want to help the Red Cross and give life to others, it's a wonderful thing. Also, the Civic Club and joining forces with the Exchange Club and the Anglers. We're doing a big cookout on Tuesday, June 4th, and it's going to be a water night, right? So
Yes.
bring your squirt guns and buckets.
And a DJ as well.
And a DJ's playing
Family
music,
oriented
so it'll be fun.
music.
So bring the family, come on down, it should be a beautiful weather that day, hot. It's prediction.
I forgot to mention Forrest Neely is having his 100th anniversary, World War II veteran, not a lot of them left. And that's going to be celebrated on the 2nd of June. That did go out to the staff. Thank you for publishing that, Wes. But it will be at the Folly Beach, or the United Methodist Church's Fellowship Hall, from 11:30 to 1:30. If you'd like to stop by and wish him happy birthday. He was actually born on June 6th, which was D-Day. So keep that in mind as well. But 100th birthday for Forrest Neely, a great city servant, longtime resident, and if you want to stop by and wish him happy birthday, please do.
Well, before I ask for a motion to adjourn, after talking to many citizens during the last election cycle, I am seriously considering running for another term. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I ain't hearing a motion.